Making a video on a 1958 farmall Cub. We'll be trying to put the fuel tank and fuel bowl filter back in it this video, and then we're going to be working on the charging system. The generator's off. There's the first one. The small one is for this. The big one is for this tractor, the Super C. But let's set this down. Work on this thing. Find somewhere to set it. So here's the fuel tank right here. Right here. And I flip it over to work on it. So this one's getting a new head gasket. Some rags. Let's set this down real quick. The rag's down, so I can set the gas tank upside down and not scratch it all up. At least worse than it already is. That'd be alright. Alright, got the gas tank flipped over. Need to tighten this back up. So here's the screen. You can see how bad that is. And then it goes right there, and then it blocks trash from getting in your carburetor, since there might be trash in your fuel tank. So I'm going to leave that one there and go get my other one. I'm making another one out of some metal wire, so let me go find it. Alright, so I'm going to get it out of this bag here. So this is what I'm going to be using. Metal wiring, but get back over here to it. It's going to be put on just like that. Might put it on like that ways. So I'm going to set this down, and all I got to do is poke a hole in the middle of it and slide it over it. So be right back. I'm back with the drilled out. I'm gonna see if I can get it to go on it now. So we're gonna slide it up over this, so the fuel will come out. Just like that. Now we're going to bend the sides around. And then bend it all back in the middle. So we're going to bend the sides down on it. And then we'll go get the fuel bowl. Here's the fuel bowl. And then here's the bracket for it that holds it on. So for this, what you're going to do is to get your fuel bowl and set it on it, just like that. Set, just like that. You want to bend up the sides before you put it on, so that the fuel bowl will sit down in it evenly, so that it won't leak fuel. So after you bend down the side, or bend up the side like that, you're going to get this bracket, and then it's going to latch into this part down here, and then that right there on the top of the glass is where that nut's going to tighten up to hold it on. So you're going to find the little marks. You're going to have these little clippings. You'll put clips in on the base and then slide it into it. If I can get mine in. They're sometimes hard to get on. And then you'll slide it over it. And you're going to tighten up that nut to hold in the glass, to hold in the bowl. And what this is going to do is that the filter is going to keep the trash from going into the bowl. And what the bowl does, it holds the water from inside the fuel tank, so that if you get moisture in it, it holds the water at the bottom of it so that you won't get gas inside of your carburetor. I mean, water inside of your carburetor and engine. It'll only let the gas through because the water will sink. It'll go to the bottom of this bowl. And you'll see it when you run it. It'll be full of, like, sludge-looking stuff. The bottom. Now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to flip this gas tank back over. Let me let this down and then flip it back over. And then after you flip it over, if you want, you can make sure it's the way that it sits on your tractor. So on the tractor, sit. I'll show you. Like this from the front, and then you're always going to go to this side to cut your gas on and off. So then you'll just think of it like it's on the tractor. You'll completely unscrew it. So now you know it's tight and it's closed. And then you'll take your gas cap off, go get your gas and put a little bit of gas in it, and make sure it won't leak. And if it won't leak, then you you're good. And I'll probably do this before you put it on your tractor, because then you'll have to take it back off if it leaks. If you don't want to do it under the hood, which has a very, very little amount of space. If it does leak, you can just take it outside so that it won't leak all over your floor. Go to your shop. I have a bottle of gas in here for it to go into the plug. And I'm going to look, make sure that we have no leaks. And then you're going to want to open up we do have a leak, which means we're going to have to cut out that to make it actually fit, because that filter you put on it is not made for it. Pick up. And as you can see, it leaked fuel. So for now we're going to leave that, and then I'm going to cut it out right. This, we're replacing a head gasket on and maybe rebuilding the head on it. And I got the fan off on it. That's the left cultivator. Yeah, that's the left cultivator, or right cultivator. No, sorry, left cultivator for this, and the right cultivator is sitting right over there. So this is the hydraulics on it, and then motor right there, obviously, if you know what one of these is. You'll have your live PTO right here that spins with the engine, because if you see, when you engage it from this lever right here, it won't spin unless you spin over the engine. Because when you're running any kind of a bush hog or implement that uses that pulley, then it uses the power from the engine to use it. Same on this tractor. You have it right there. You have it right there. And then when you flip this lever by the headlight back, you have to spin the engine over. And this we have a hand crank for. This hand crank. And you'll see the pistons inside of the engine going up and down. And what they'll do is that when the pistons go up and down, you'll have a spark plug on each cylinder, and then every other fire it will make, or every other time the piston comes up, it will make fire. And then you have an intake and an exhaust valve. Let me see which one's which. I think the intake is the outer, and then the exhaust is the inner. Intake, exhaust. I think that's how it is. It might be the other way around. But when the intake opens, the exhaust window will close, and the spring will compress or decompress to come up and down. And then when it brings in air and then closes in the exhaust valve, then it makes the combustion fire, and then the exhaust valve will open, and then the intake valve will close to let the exhaust air out, and it does it very fast when you have the engine running. But you have push rods, which are these, that push the valves and the springs up. And these are the valves. See, they sit on the springs and they click up and down to match the springs up and down. And here's the head gasket to go up on it, which means since it's a water-cooled engine, you'll have water in your cylinder block. But you don't want it inside of where the pistons are going up and down, because you don't want water and antifreeze in there. So what this does, this is a gasket that basically prevents it from letting water getting inside of the engine while it's running. But when your gasket goes bad, then it blows water either out of the block or into the cylinder holes, and you could really mess up your engine. And this one was getting pretty bad, and we kind of knew it because we'd had to put oil in it a lot. I mean, water in it a lot, and the oil was starting to look like water sometimes. So it was getting to be pretty bad, to where it would have been pretty bad if we left it on there any longer. And you could see it's already started to blow out on the corner, and then you could see around the holes where the pistons will go up and down. You can see where the gasket's trying to push out to let water in. So that's why it needs a new head gasket. And then that's the intake and exhaust manifold gasket. That's just a gasket to make sure your manifold won't leak. And then here's the carburetor for it. And then here's the valve cover gasket for it. And I think the exhaust manifold back behind it, I don't know. But right now I'm fixing the brakes on it too, because it had terrible brakes, and the brakes never really did work. And it's going to need new tires. As you can see, you can feel the tread up on it. But it's a good tractor and all to be a 65-year-old tractor. Yeah, a 65-year-old tractor is pretty good. And this one is pretty good. This brake just needs adjusted, and this brake's alright. The clutch needs adjusted a little bit, as you can see. That's all the clutch you got. It does have hydraulics on it, which is, I wouldn't say it's rare, but lots of people back then, when they buy these, they wouldn't buy them with hydraulics, because for what they did with a small tractor like this, they wouldn't need them. And that's what the intake and the exhaust manifold looks like. That's the, hold up. This is the intake, the bottom one, and then that's the exhaust. So it goes into one. So that's pretty much about both tractors and what they need and what I'm fixing.